Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dropped Frames, episode 98, 97. Zeke, what episode are we on? As the official statsman of Dropped Frames, Zeke, what episode is this?
This is episode 7.
Okay.
100. This is the final episode.
The final episode. You don't number your
I don't know,
podcast,
man.
do you, Total Biscuit? You date your podcast.
We do both, but we confused people by changing the name of the podcast halfway through its run, so we started from 1 again. So I have no fucking clue how many we actually have.
Okay. But you're over 100 for sure, right? You're probably like 200.
Yeah, I think total we're almost 300 if you
Okay.
count the previous iteration.
That makes sense. This is 97. So 3 away,
97,
and then I can stop showing up on Wednesdays. It's great.
Yeah.
I get later and later each week, if you guys haven't noticed. The care factor is just dropping down as we climb towards 100 every
I was going
week.
to say, when did you stop giving a fuck about this show?
Around 94, I'd say 93, 94.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Oh, when Jericho took over for
Yeah.
I was like, I get it. I'm not going to call myself out, though. When Cohh started having responsibilities.
Yeah. Pretty much. If you didn't know by now, Jericho, the better Cohh, is once again guest hosting this week. And our guest this week is none other than Total Biscuit, who was on a show yesterday talking about most of the stuff we'll probably talk about today. So we got to get
Probably.
those new opinions out of him, those new ideas out of Mr. Total Biscuit. It's going to be great.
Oh, a quick question, just offhand comment.
Great.
Do you get people coming up to you saying Mr. Biscuit?
It's happened once or twice.
Okay.
People
They
get
just didn't know
weird
if this-
about it. They don't know what to call me. It's like, is it okay to call you by your name? Do you prefer Total Biscuit, TB, Mr. Biscuit, John, whatever? I just don't even know. at this
Mr.
point.
Biscuit.
Whatever. Yeah. Whatever works.
I just picture like Tiny Tim Orphan like tugging on you like Mr. Biscuit.
Mr. Biscuit, can I have some more? More?
I don't think anyone calls you John, though, right? No one outright just says, "Hey, John."
Some people do.
Okay.
And it's really weird when you've never met them before.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
what? Who are you? I don't know. What's going on? This
Yeah.
is weird.
I think I say TB. I think most of your friends
That
say
works.
TB. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just more convenient that way.
Yeah. It's shortened to the point, and you understand and you respond to it. That's the important thing. It's great.
Yeah, I
great.
call you JP.
Yeah.
It's actually convenient.
It is. Yeah.
I call Zeke Zeke. You know, look at that, guys. That's great.
Yeah. People with
We're
long
learning
names
so many
suck.
things about each other today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People with long names are
Valuable.
just awful. They're just awful.
I pronounce your name phonetically. Jericho Showy.
Yeah.
Sounds like some Mass Effect dialogue right there.
Oh God.
Segue.
He's already triggering everyone in the chat. Yeah, Mass Effect Andromeda came out this week, and the internet lost its goddamn mind, as they do with big releases. I think Zeke and TB, you guys have been playing Nier as well. The PC port dropped last
Yep.
Friday. I think you guys are both playing PC, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Jericho, you've been playing some H1Z1 because apparently there was an update because they're getting scared that everyone's playing
Literally,
Battlegrounds.
fuck, Battlegrounds comes out tomorrow update. Like,
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. It seems kind of desperate. It was funny watching Battlegrounds just climb above League of Legends over the weekend, and then H1Z1 is just hovering around like 4,000 viewers because Doctor
Nobody was
Disrespect was playing. Yeah, no one was playing it, especially
Yeah.
Doctor
Still, though,
Disrespect. So.
I mean, I'm looking at these numbers on H1Z1 King of the Kill for concurrence, and they had that 24-hour peak of 106,000. Right now, it's 57K playing it. That makes it number 4 on Steam at the moment. That's a lot.
playing it is fine. That surprised us last show because I was saying like, yeah, there's more people playing or watching it on Twitch than playing it. Clearly false, by the way. But once everybody jumps ship to Battlegrounds, H1's like, shit, nobody plays our game anymore, guys. So
Yeah.
updates, esports.
Yeah, H1's the equivalent of like the red ass monkey, like, hey,
Yeah.
come get this ass. Look at it. You remember how much you liked it? Come back.
That's true. That's true.
I feel like those games have like a nomadic player base anyway. Like they'll just run
Oh,
to
yeah.
whatever's new, regardless of how finished it really is. The question is, can this other game actually keep people? I remember when people said, yeah, the culling is going to kill everything. Where the fuck is that now?
Well, yeah, I think the devs, like the thing that makes those games stick is if they actually update those games in a timely fashion. And I think that's the most important thing. And it seems like Battlegrounds has been updated every single weekend that it's been live. There's been some significant changes to it, so we'll see what happens after launch. Yeah. Eventually, start having to make like giant changes that can't be done week to week.
Why don't they have wow, that was a nice voice crack. Why don't they have a shelf life like League or Dota? Like, these games have the shelf life of like a first-person shooter game, like 1 year, maybe more, and then everybody jumps ship regardless. Is it because the games suck? Like why does
I think a lot of it's down to progression, honestly. Like, if you play a lot of League in particular, as you start leveling up, as you start making your way towards 30, as you start to unlock these characters, which take a long fucking time to unlock, you feel more and more invested in the game, and it's much harder to leave. And I have everything unlocked in that game, despite having not played for 3 years. And I know it took me at least a year to stop playing, despite the fact I knew I wasn't enjoying it anymore. So I was thinking, well, I mean, I've done so much in it already. Do I really want to abandon it? It's that sunk cost fallacy idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. I play a lot of Dota. That's all I've been playing. I've lost myself to Dota. It's rough. It
really is.
It's fun experience, but man, some of those games just make you question everything about your life, and you just go to a dark place for a couple minutes.
When it's good, it's very, very good. When it's bad, it is the worst thing that exists on this planet Earth.
Man, I played a couple, I ended my stream last night because I had to walk away from the computer because I was so upset after playing 5 hours of Dota. Came back, played one more game. It was just abysmal. I didn't say anything for 45 minutes on the stream. And I ended the stream, went and watched the Dave Chappelle comedy thing on Netflix, which you should watch. It's very, very good.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Oh, it's out now?
It's pretty good.
Awesome.
Yeah, the 2 episodes are the two specials, I guess, were filmed like 6 and 7 months ago or something like that. Maybe even longer than that. And a lot of the jokes that he says are around that time period. So if that bothers you, then yeah, it might kind of be annoying. But apart from that, it's pretty funny. So I went and watched that, and I was like, all right, I'm in a happy mood. I laughed for a while. Thanks, Dave Chappelle. When lost 3 Dota games, and was like, well, it's time to sleep. I hate myself. Then went to sleep. So
sit there, grab your pillow, just
pretty much. That's
snore away the pain.
That's been my life. I did finish Horizon though, Jericho.
Did you?
Yeah.
And
Zeke, are you planning on? Are the other 2 of you planning on playing it?
I'm not touching it unless it makes its way to PC with a frame rate unlock, which is never going to happen.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if I should just like talk about giant story.
Like spoil it. I mean, the game's been out.
I could talk around it for a little bit.
I would imagine the chat might be slightly upset.
Yeah, the chat would probably be a little bit upset.
Who cares about that?
I don't give a damn.
If you preface it though, they're less upset. Talking around I feel like the plot elements they do these massive plot dumps. Like hour long of just nonstop story
reading
stuff.
Text and
it's reading text. A lot of it is reading text.
I told you that, remember? I was like, damn, they really just fucking shit on you right there.
Yeah, and towards the end of the game, like you keep thinking like, all right, this is the last mission, and then it's not. This is the last mission, and then it's not. And then finally you get to like the last mission where it's like, if you do this, you're not gonna be able to do anything else because the game's gonna end. And that's where I had to take a break with about 2 hours left in it because there was so much exposition being dropped on you about the state of the world, as it were. But I thought that was a cool story. I thought it was pretty unique. Cool. Yeah, definitely worth a playthrough.
Yeah,
if you can suffer through suffer through the steady 30 FPS. I can't. Yeah, I feel like that game. The more that I looked at that game, and this is a weird thing, the more that I looked at that game, the worse I thought it looked.
Yes.
There's like no AA or like something about the lines in that game look really bad after playing so much PC games.
Were you playing it upscaled to like 4K or something?
No.
Or were you?
No, I was playing on a Pro, but it was 1080p. It was
I don't know.
It was 1080p under fast performance. Maybe that's why. I don't know what that actually changes.
It might be a frame pacing thing, but I've been told that it sticks a solid 30 on pretty much every system.
Yeah, that's what I remember
You'll
reading.
probably be able to deal with all those lines, even if you don't have a 4K display by doing 4K anyway. You get that basically super sampling effect from doing that, although I don't know how it affects the performance. Couldn't say.
Yeah, I don't either. But yeah, I finished that. It was good.
How long did it take you, by the way?
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Zeke.
No, you're on
Oh,
topic.
yeah.
I'm gonna go off topic a little bit.
Gotcha. I was just wondering how long it took you, JP.
I don't know. Let me pull up the twinge on it and see how long I actually played it. I want to say like 30 hours, but let's see here. I played it, 30 hours, 10 minutes to completion.
Wow. Yeah. So pretty steady playtime all around. I was like 24 hours and I rushed main story. So yeah, has some good playtime.
Yeah,
Anyways.
it was funny because last week I was talking about how it was higher viewership after everyone had already played it, right? So that weekend I got I think it was like 25 to 3K, which was not 2 weekends ago. And then this past weekend, it was just like absolute dog shit viewership, like barely broke 1,000 each day.
Huh.
And I was very surprised to see the game had fallen that quickly in viewership on Twitch.
Yeah, I don't know. I never got very good views on it, so I just kind of played it because I wanted to. But
Yeah. I think the only thing I could surmise is that Mass Effect was out, so people were less interested in Horizon and more interested in the new shiny thing. Because people were doing their 10-hour preview stuff.
Yeah, I think it also came down to curiosity because Mass Effect had a lot of controversy surrounding it. So people were checking it out to see, well, what's all the fuss about? Is it actually that bad? Is it not? I imagine there was some catharsis in joining a chat and just shitting on the game with everybody else if you wanted to do that.
Yeah.
So I would think that probably did quite a lot for its Twitch viewership. Whereas I think most people, the consensus on Horizon anyway, is that Horizon's a good game. Very good game, maybe.
Yeah.
So there's not really a lot to talk about there.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's probably true. Although I will say I was kind of surprised by Andromeda's numbers this past couple of days. Like the 10-hour preview got decent, but it's weird saying like, well, I saw this streamer with X viewers, but I'm just going to do it. Goldie was getting like 4.5 to like 6K on launch night.
I saw the
and
same.
he was top spot.
Yeah.
That's really low for a.
Did anybody get?
I got 13K on my first stream of it.
Was that the 10-hour preview last week?
Basically, yeah, it was.
Okay, because those streams did well. Like launch night of the game.
At the same time as the 10-hour preview, so I really didn't get much more than the guys that just had Origin Access did. My last stream of it was Monday.
Yeah.
I think, and I got 9.5K.
Okay.
And that wasn't even. I went past where the 10-hour preview could go, but not by a lot. So that did pretty well. Multiplayer, I did a couple of streams of that, got good numbers, about between 6 to 9K on that.
Yeah.
So not too shabby, certainly.
Yeah. It might just be a case of that if people are, it might be the case people want to play it rather than watch it, which happens with single player games. It happened with Witcher for sure on Twitch. Like that game's viewership died very, very quickly, which is normal, I guess.
What about people playing the multiplayer, or people not?
Yeah,
I don't really know.
I don't know much about the multiplayer.
Yeah.
And I don't know if is it good viewer content? Like
it seems to be. Strippin was doing pretty well with it. Force did a stream of it and his numbers were good for a Force stream. I don't think have I actually streamed it myself? I don't think so. I think I've just been on other people's streams, but it's pretty enjoyable to watch. I actually got quite a few comments of people saying that the combat in Mass Effect in general, both single and multiplayer, is quite pleasurable to watch if someone is relatively good at it, because the transitions between abilities are very smooth. The guns sound really good. They look really good for the most part. So, and it gets pretty tense and stressful towards the last couple of waves. So people are digging the panic that starts to set in the voice of the streamers. So there's some compelling viewing to watch. I don't know how long that's going to last, though. Because really, there's 3 factions, there's a few maps,
light. Yeah,
some modifiers. They do have those dailies, which have some crazy modifiers. I looked last night, and there was a map that was like, the modifier is Glassjaw. You take 1,000% extra damage from enemy melee.
Oh.
I was like, you fucking what? Like, that's basically insta-gib if you let anyone touch you.
Yeah. I never played Mass Effect 3, but I've been told it's very similar to the multiplayer of that. Like, they didn't really change much in terms of the
biggest
actual game.
change is the mobility. Everyone's got a jump jet and everyone's got an air dash, and they're on almost 0 cooldown. And that really changes things up quite a bit, because a lot of Mass Effect 3's multiplayer was hiding behind a box And at this point, you can move around a lot more. Some cover gets destroyed, so you can't stay in the same place. A lot of enemies have flushes like grenades or abilities, shockwaves, teleports. So you do have to move around a lot. I find it a lot more fun just because you can be more mobile in that game than you could in Mass Effect 3.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Strippin was asking if I wanted to play some last week, but I haven't followed up on it, so I'm not sure. Zeke, did you touch the multiplayer at all? I know you've been playing single player, which we'll get to in just a bit, but...
No, I didn't touch multiplayer at all. I really try not to touch multiplayer ever.
Makes sense.
In most anything.
It makes sense.
Unless it's like, Drawful or something like that.
Sure. Let's
Highly competitive.
Let's jump into the single player Mass Effect, and then there were some Twitch changes that we'll jump into after that. But Zeke, we'll start with you.
Before we do that,
Oh.
I just had a question. For TB because I see you mention it all the time, and I'm really curious to hear what you have to say about it. Why is frame rate so important to you? Because and the reason why I ask is because it's not super duper important to me.
It's important to me because I've got really sensitive to variances in frame rate and also lower frame rates in terms of input lag. And the kind of games that I tend to enjoy playing are very much affected by frame rate. First-person shooters, third-person action games, character action games, those sort of things. It's really easy to notice. And ever since I moved up to a 144 hertz monitor, it's become really fucking easy to notice the difference.
Yeah.
I think the first game I ever really noticed the difference between like 60 and 120 frames, and I think it was actually even just 90 frames, was when I played Tribes Ascend. I recall it was locked to 90 at one point, and I could see the difference between 60 and 90, and I could feel it. And in a big twitchy shooter, there is such a huge difference in how the combat feels, how it performs, how instantaneous the reactions feel when you're putting an input into the program itself and then seeing the reaction on the screen. It got to the point where I just couldn't play games at 30 anymore because they felt unpleasant. They felt like they were lagging behind everything I was doing. They felt like I was walking and fighting through soup. It was just horrendous. And I think if you grab a G-Sync monitor as well, you probably see that a lot because G-Sync actually really fucking hates it if you hit 30 or lower. It becomes even more obvious
really
as to
bad,
how jank it is. Yeah, I noticed it first thing in Dragon Age Inquisition. Remember when they had the 30 FPS cutscenes?
Yep.
G-Sync freaked the fuck out when it did that. It was not happy at all.
Yep.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. Played a lot of games, and I think you start to notice frame rate more and more and more, and it gets to the point where you can't really tolerate that low frame rate anymlot.
Yeah.
So it's like being exposed to a fine wine, and then you're like, oh man, the wine I was drinking is shit.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to do with that. If you eat McDonald's all your life, then you probably think McDonald's is pretty good. But you start eating higher quality burgers, and you eat them on a regular, and you start to realize how shit McDonald's is.
Doesn't mean you can't enjoy the McDonald's, but you prefer the nicer Five Guys or whatever.
McDonald's will do once in a while.
Yeah, like I'll put up with it. I put up with it for Horizon. If the shakes are in and the machine's not broken, I'm good. But
totally.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of
That's my
people are
only
just
option.
they notice the difference, but they're not. It's not a deal breaker for them. I'm a bit of an extremist when it comes to that. For me, it is a deal breaker on those kind of games. I'll play like a card game at 30 or a tactics game, something turn-based. That's fine. The frame rate on fucking XCOM 2 is atrocious and has been for the last 2 years. I tolerate that because it doesn't really matter. But third-person action games, first-person shooters, no way.
Yeah.
Anything that requires like your reaction time to work right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just it literally is just science. You can do the mathematics on it. You just say, right, well, if you're running at 30 frames per second, then there's a minimum amount of time between what I do with my controller and what the game then responds with. And that lower that frame rate is, the larger the gap's going to be. So you get that input lag with every single thing that you do. And you can feel it. You don't even have to look at it. You can feel it immediately when you see the frame rate drop.
Yeah, that makes sense. My eyes are definitely trained to that type of stuff. But I think my brain, when I play a console game, just inherently knows like, all right, this is going to be a 30 FPS experience. Just deal with it. But if I'm playing a PC game and it's like sub 60, I lose my shit. I get really upset when that
Oh
happens.
yeah, first thing you do is you dive straight in the options menu,
Yep.
find out what motherfucking little feature is tanking your frame rate. It's
Yep.
like, I know you're there, HBAO Plus. You're hiding somewhere. You probably call yourself post-processing. You're trying to hide under that. Oh, I know where you fucking are, you little sneaky bastard. Oh, you're going off. I tell you that for a fact.
I think last night it was actually happening during Dota. I think the newest patch from NVIDIA that's for like Mass Effect or whatever that I installed, because I was going to jump into Mass Effect and then I just played more Dota. I think it's actually like dropping frames for me in Dota, because it'll randomly just drop to like 40 or 30 FPS and then spike back up.
But Dota, that's really bad.
It's
like,
really
that can fuck
bad,
up
yeah.
a team fight.
Yeah.
I mean, for competitive games in particular, that frame rate instability is a huge deal. And I think some people argue, and I think that they're very well right, that an unstable frame rate is worse than locked 30. And I think they're right on that. I still don't like locked 30, but locked 30 versus something that varies between 30 and 50. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to play Final Fantasy 15 since the PS Pro update. It is a complete shit show.
Is it really? Is it not stable at all?
Yeah, it wasn't good before the patch. It's now even worse. It's like between 25 and 50, back and forward, and it's just horrible.
You can notice the slowdown then for sure when it drops.
Well, you can see it. You know, 1 second you're walking and then everything's fine, and the next second you're like, holy shit.
Yeah,
like,
it's kind of slow motion. They've added a lot of the stuff to that though, like DLC. Wasn't there like a hunt or like some Dread Behemoth or something? I get emails from Square Enix saying like, hey, we put this in the game like every fucking day for Final Fantasy 15. So it seems like they've been adding a lot of post-game content for it, but I haven't touched it at all. I haven't even seen the higher FPS patch, so I might need to jump back into that just to check it out.
I just want to know, like, when you have something that you're hunting for that whatever file that makes the FPS shit. Do you ever like get so upset you try and get in contact with someone at the company?
Yeah, a couple of days ago, I contacted BioWare directly before the patch came. It wasn't even a patch, actually. It was NVIDIA drivers came out.
Yeah.
We actually had to stop a stream because everything was running just fine. We fucking land on EOS, and we start turning around, and the frame rate is fucking bungeeing from like 25 to 80, back and forth. It's like, I can't fucking fight or even play like this. This feels terrible. Not to mention it looks terrible to the stream as well, because they're seeing those drops. We were streaming at 720p 60, so they could see it too. So we actually stopped, and thankfully the next day the NVIDIA drivers came out, and then everything's like 80, 90 on Ultra now, so it's good.
Are you still running 1440p?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. That's good. It runs that well then. I haven't had a chance to jump into it at all, but it sounds like
it's demanding. Well. I mean, it's a Frostbite engine game. It's going to be demanding. Some of the fucking lighting effects and the terrain and the view distance is amazing in that game.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about it. Zeke, you've been playing it offline, which I think a lot of people aren't aware. So we'll start with you. How are you liking Mass Effect Andromeda?
I'm absolutely in love with it. I think it's fucking fantastic. I will say that the exposition especially for someone who, like, when I'm not playing it on the broadcast, I don't feel the need to speed up or, go through things really quickly. I'll sit there, I'll read every word of every data pad, I'll listen to every single fucking word. Anybody I pass, like, that has a prompt, I will talk to them and say, oh, hey, and I'll listen to every option, everything they got. And I will say that just getting to EOS took me a long time because I walked around and did like 3 mini quests, talked to everybody I possibly could. It was a bit much, but I can't really fault it because I put it on myself, but I didn't want to go to EOS, the first planet you go to, no spoilers. The first planet you touch down on. I didn't want to go there and have like something say like, you failed this quest because you didn't talk to this dude on the fucking starship. Like, god damn it. So I don't want to do that. So I fucking went through, and it was like 3 hours of nothing but reading and dialogue.
Oh god, I'm immediately turned off.
That sounds horrible.
Here's the thing: you could have done that. You remember the Citadel? I mean,
yeah.
If you
I didn't do that on the Citadel.
Oh god, yeah,
I did.
I did that as well. I mean, I even got all 20 of the. Oh god, what are they called? I keep thinking they're called caretakers.
Oh, the keepers?
I think the keepers, yes.
Yeah.
Finding that 20th keeper was just a pain. It's like, I shouldn't have done it, but I did it anyway. A lot of that shit you could skip, and from what I can tell, most of those quests, if not all of them, will just wait for you. There are some that won't, but they make it pretty damn clear. I ran into a mission on EOS where it was like, no, you can't wait. You've got to do this fucking now or everybody is going to die. So there is at least one of those within the first few hours of the game. But for the most part, you can take your time. And
it's a lot of passive quest stuff. Yeah,
quite a lot of it. I've noticed that most of it seems pretty well designed in terms of its flow as well. The side quests, you tend to stumble across the objectives to those side quests on the way to the main one. So they don't throw them like completely out of the way in most cases. The only exception to that is there's a memory trigger that's somewhere on EOS. I don't think I can even get there yet because you go there and it's like, radiation level 3, you are fucking dying. Get the fuck out of here. Pretty sure you got to do something else to get that later on in the game.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like as far as everything else goes, there's the obvious shit that we all know. Like the thing I can't understand is how a game like this, with this much hype budget, whatever you want to call it, can have Muppet mouth bullshit. Like I can forgive it, but I don't fucking understand how you would let that fucking fly.
I couldn't agree more with that.
I don't understand.
There's a key distinction I think to be made between the idea that this isn't acceptable for a big, expensive AAA, big budget release, and this is killing my immersion and ruining the game experience. Because on the first count, you're totally fucking right. No, it's not acceptable for a big release like this. It's ridiculous. And there have been some comparison shots that have shown that even the original Mass Effect did some of that stuff better. So it's like, well, how did you regress in this regard? But on the other side of it, it's like, well, those are funny GIFs, but they're not impeding my enjoyment of the game all that much. But they're definitely distracting when they happen.
And you guys are talking about the face-to-face conversations that happen. You're talking about the movement of the mouse. Is that detracting from the
eyes
game?
As well?
Yeah, the eyes are like fucking googly eyes sometimes.
They really are. And it varies depending on what kind of character you've chosen. Apparently, the male rider does way better in that regard than the female one does. The female one has a weird nervous twitch, and it almost seems like most of the characters in the game have mouths that are just a little bit too big for the face and eyes that are just a little bit too big for the sockets, and that's causing problems.
Yep. Well, and the other, I mean, for a game like this, there's a lot of dialogue, and that's why people love it, because you make all these choices. You spend a long time talking to the same fucking person.
You do.
If you go through all the options, you make romances. I mean, the lion's share of this game is done with talking to someone face to fucking face, and eyebrows show emotion. Use those.
Show the right emotion. More to the point, we've seen just some weird characters are frowning for no reason in some situations, or even have like a weird grin on their face when there's a sad moment. It's like, what's going on here? It really is amazing that they managed to fuck that element of the game up as much as they did. It's not bad all the time. In fact, I'd say the minority of the time it's noteworthy, but when it does get bad, it gets really bad.
Wait, this is your main character, not that good. That's your main character. That looks rough.
Look, go back like 2 seconds, just how quick she twitches in before, right before the cutscene ends. It's not even that distracting, but I can get overtime, like Zeke says. If you're spending most of your time going through every option and listening to it, and you have to watch this person unemotionally describe shit, or just do it not up to standard, it's gonna be annoying. But it doesn't totally. Overall. It definitely doesn't overall discount the game as being good.
There's a weight to the face that doesn't actually exist in real life.
Look at her eyes.
Look at the fucking lips go in and out. They're like,
you're right. The eyebrows don't move.
Like things are connected that are not connected in the human face.
No,
it looks very odd.
What I think? You know what? I really may have had. I don't know if it happened or not, but what it seems like happened is they said, all right, it's gonna be more difficult to animate the Krogans, the Turians, and that kind of shit. So let's do those guys first, and then we'll just animate the humans off of that.
Well, the humans should have been the one that should be first.
The aliens look okay because you're not sure where their muscles are located in face and mouth and stuff. So you're like, oh, the Krogan looks like it's actually talking and saying shit. But you've talked to people all your life, and people don't talk like Krogans.
Yeah.
No. No, there's no doubt about it. Apparently, some of the presets are worse than others, and it's possible to create a character who looks more natural than the defaults. That's insane to me. The fact that the defaults are actually worse than stuff that you can make yourself. It should be the other way around.
Yeah.
Surely they tested everything with the defaults, right? Apparently not. It's bizarre. It's truly, truly bizarre. It seems like that area was just rushed a bit.
You're saying that if I made a custom character, it would look better than the regular.
Somebody has started making YouTube videos showing you how to unfuck the faces and showing you the presets to use to make the
That's pretty funny.
actual movements look better and the faces look more human. It's ridiculous that we need a YouTube series for that. Like this should be default.
This is probably story-based shit.
No, I went with the stock. I went FemShep. This is who I'm playing with. I didn't like.
So did I.
Is this stock FemShep or FemRider? Sorry.
Yeah, it is.
Or FemRider, sorry.
How do you guys like the name Rider, by the way? It's not
Look
a
at
Shep.
the lazy eye.
It's not Shepherd. That's for sure. It's
I
whatever.
don't really care. It's too close to Riker. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's when I first heard Rider. I was like, "What?" It sounds very much like Riker to me. That was my issue too. If there is such an issue over a name, but
I had to go bang a telepath and then have an on and off relationship for the next 7 seasons.
Zeke, you said you're having a great time with it, though. You're enjoying it.
I am.
Apart
but
from the
that's,
weird
okay,
Muppet stuff.
All that bullshit aside.
Yeah, we should state this game's, at least for me, from the outside looking in, this game is just getting fucking like pummeled by everyone and just nonstop. It's really funny to see. And then I bet if you went and like looked at the gameplay time of everyone that's doing the pummeling, they're probably going to play this game for like 50 plus hours, which is maybe why they're so critical of it. But
I think the most of the criticism is coming from people that barely even played it to begin with, and those that did most likely played the trial, which is not a great first impression. It's not awful, but until you get to a certain part of EOS, I'd say that it's a bit of a slow start. It's not a awesome experience. I don't think that BioWare's really done a great starting zone since Dragon Age Origins, honestly, and even then, about half of them sucked, depending on which one you chose. But it definitely gets going. It's not like that's an illegitimate criticism, though. Are you expected to play 10 hours before something gets good? That doesn't sound good to me at all.
Yeah, it sounds kind of rough.
Can
Well,
we
but that's
talk
the thing.
about?
You can skip all that shit. You can just go do the main quest. Like I could have gone to EOS, like I think like an hour, maybe hour and a half in.
The dude in the background has had the same eye loop animation for the last minute. They didn't even like.
Oh yeah,
add
he
an
is eye
additional-
looping. You're right.
What? No, it's literally that.
No,
for the
yeah, it's
last-
just doing it right now while TB's trying to
Yeah.
decide what he wants to
It's like
say.
that whole time
It's
he
the-
kept on looking down, looking to the right, looking down, looking to the right. Like they didn't even add a third option in there. They like, how about look to the left once? I don't know.
He's still doing it right now.
He is not
Yeah,
an
he's-
either either. either.
Is that like a companion or whatever?
He's a companion. He's a squad
Yeah.
mate.
Yeah,
Yeah,
squad mate.
I've now got to the point where I can get rid of him, and I have every intention of doing that. I can't even remember a single defining characteristic about him over the last 10 hours, other than
What was the name? Oh, sorry.
every now and again he'll say something that just doesn't make sense. I'm like, what are you even fucking talking about, dude? Like he's British and he has sort of London mannerisms, but I don't understand half of his sentences. They just don't seem to make sense. It's a bit weird.
What's the name of the I think it's the guy that everybody leaves behind.
Jacob?
Caden, thank
Or
you.
Caden,
Even
yeah.
his
Yes.
chat
Caden
is on
from-
top of it.
Yeah.
He's
He's the
Caden.
Caden of
He's the
this
Caden.
game.
Okay.
To some extent, he's the Ashley as well, I'd say. I don't think Ashley was a particularly engaging character either.
I know these characters because I played 1 and 2. If you say someone from 3, although I think most people are the same, and the third one I won't know, but
Yeah, he's just like he's angry about something that happened, and he plays it pretty tepidly.
does she?
And
Is there a loop happening as you're trying to decide that? Yeah, it's the same. That's weird.
Yeah,
Why is there not like an idol? Like
I think that is the idol.
the idol is like, oh God, I don't know if I could actually play that now. It's so distracting for me. Now that Jericho's pointed out, I can't unsee
I'm
it.
sorry.
It's just looping.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
sure.
the same animation, and it's just. She's
I'm
really
sure
interested.
TB's like trying. He's talking here about like, well, if I choose this, or maybe if I choose, or I don't know what you're talking about, but all I see is just the same loop, just over and over.
There's
I
the
cannot
thing that
see
we
it.
brought up on the show yesterday that I think is really a good point that we didn't think of, and that's that this stuff is much more noticeable for stream watchers than it is for players.
Totally,
And
yeah.
because you're not playing the game, you're watching it, you're going to be way more sensitive to this kind of thing, and you're going to be able to notice stuff that we don't, because we're busy making that decision, or we're busy thinking about the next thing to do, or maybe, even in a combat situation, someone might notice one of our characters sinking into the floor. We don't, because we're too busy shooting shit.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you
And
think?
what? Oh,
I was just gonna ask. Do you guys think that aside from that, does it live up to an expectation? Maybe not
That's
the
like
lofty
spoiler.
expectation you had, but at least does it hold up? And are you happy that you are spending? I know you are, Zeke, but like you're satisfied with the game.
I am. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll say that I'm more satisfied with it than I was with Inquisition. I put 60 hours into Inquisition, and I'll say that 2/3 of that at least was boring. I didn't finish
like
the game.
Inquisition, yeah.
It was too like an MMO. The Hinterlands is maybe one of the worst zones I've ever seen, but even some of the other zones are still fairly similar to that. Whereas so far, with EOS in particular, they didn't overdo the side quests, and the side quests they did give you all make logical, contextual sense, and usually have a good payoff that's not just XP. They've got this viability meter for planets, because the whole idea is all the planets that these guys said were going to be amazing turned out 600 years later when they finally arrived to be complete dog shit, so they couldn't colonize them, and the ones that they tried to colonize murdered them, for one reason or another. So you got this planetary viability thing, and pretty much every quest you do contributes in some way to making that planet just a bit better, either physically or just because you've raised morale with the settlers and shit like that, or you've put a squabble to rest, you've sorted out a disagreement between the colonists. It's a pretty neat way of kind of gamifying the whole idea of everything you do is towards this greater goal, I guess.
Are you getting a sense of story-wise, and we'll talk around this as much as possible, but main story-wise, is there the sense of like big bad as there was throughout the first trilogy, where there's kind of like the impending doom while you're like colonizing all this shit, or?
No, not really. I mean, there is the whole idea that, hey, we're running out of resources. You need to sort this shit out sooner rather than later. But
Okay.
It's pretty obvious that that's not actually going to be a factor. There isn't a big antagonist, and even the antagonist race you run into early on, there's more going on there than meets the eye. You just don't really know what it is yet.
Okay.
So it's mostly like disparate threats. Like there was a mutiny at one point, so there's a bunch of outlaws. There's this weird alien robot race of ancient technology. We're not really sure if they're enemies or not, but their tech's being raided by the Ket, who are hostile to you, but they seem to also be having some problems. Like, they're not the guys who are ruining everything. On the first planet, you notice you come across crashed ships with Ket parties. Like, wait, so you guys are having problems as well? Like, you're not just the evil antagonist race that's screwing everything up. You seem to be affected by the same problems that we're having. So what's the deal there, So
Okay.
more of a mystery, I think.
Is that-
rather
is
than
that-
one of the first interactions you have with them is there's a lack of communication. You can't talk to each other. So you're not sure who, like, if they're like, I got killed twice during like the first opening interaction with them, because you like walk up to them with your hands up, be like, I can't understand you. Please, I am come in peace. That is our friend that you're having right there. And they shot me, and I was like, there's gotta be a fucking way to like
Don't
get
think
out
so.
of this without violence or something like that.
I mean, you can't understand a word they're saying. A
Yeah.
part of it is trying to slowly translate glyphs and get information on their
Oh, they
language. You
did
find
that? That sucks.
Yeah, it's. I don't know how much of a big deal it's going to be later on, and I'm told from people in the chat that they're probably. I mean, of course, it's going to be a big bad at some point. It's just we
Right, I'm
haven't
sure it's
figured
discovered.
out who it is.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's a like a general ominousness, or excuse me, a general like impending doom because of your supplies and shit running out, and no
Yeah.
planet to grow anything and that kind of shit. But there's no like ominous like overwhelming dread thing.
Well,
Something's here just to wipe us all off the face of the galaxy. It's as far as I'm aware, nothing to do with Reapers or anything like that going on.
I should ask, how long have both of you spent in the game, Zeke and TB?
Let's see, just checking my time here. By the looks of it, 22 hours, and I'd say probably about 5 or 6 of those have been in the multiplayer.
Okay. Zeke, how about the same?
About 16, yeah.
Okay. Are you getting a sense of, in terms of progression, or do you guys know how like expansive this game is to begin with?
It's just opened up for me. Like, we've just got past EOS, which is mandatory. So it's doing the same BioWare shit that every BioWare game does.
Okay. That just seems slow to me, but I don't know. It might just not be my cup of tea.
Yeah, no, I mean,
how many other BioWare games have you played?
I mean, I played Mass Effect 1, Mass Effect 2 recently. I did not play Mass Effect 3 because the biggest turnoff for me was the game was for the most. Mass Effect 2 has its issues for me, but in stating those issues, I think the game has such fanfare behind it that I just got dogpiled on while I was playing it. So I was like, well, this is not fun. I'm not gonna.
Oh god, I hate that.
I'm not gonna stream another game where I didn't make the right choice because every choice, blah blah blah, and that's why I'm
remember
upset.
Fucking Until Dawn? That was a shit show in that respect.
Oh,
People got genuinely upset that you let a character that they like die or made a decision that they didn't, and it's like, what the hell are you watching this for then? If you've already done this exact same thing, why are you watching me and demanding I do the same thing that you did?
Sure.
I had so much fun with that game because of that mechanic, just because of like people watching me, and I'm like, I'm gonna let this person die, and they're like,
just
fucking
piss them off.
Yeah.
A few years ago when Portal 2 came out, I refused to pick up Wheatley. And it fucking pissed people off to the point where they were threatening me. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? Why won't you pick him up? I'm like, I left him there because there's a ton of dialogue that none of you idiots got to listen to because you picked him up immediately because the game told you to. If you never played the Stanley Parable, you deliberately go out of your way to not do what the game tells you to fucking do.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's part of the fun of games for me. Exactly.
Absolutely.
Which, to go back to Horizon for a second, that pissed me off, Jericho. The waypoint system in that game is super misleading. Because
It was really shitty.
There's multiple ways to like get to somewhere, so you go off the way that doesn't have the waypoint, but then it turns out that works as well. So then you have to go back the other way because that's like the waypoint system in Horizon is awful.
It's not good.
Yeah,
and I don't know why they even need it necessarily. It's frustrating to even just have it. Just give me a direction and let me just run there. Yeah. I'll figure it out. Like,
that was one of my few criticisms of that game. But jumping back into Andromeda, how's the actual like combat for the two of you? Zeke, are you having a good time with it? Because I know TB, you've been playing the multiplayer, so you obviously enjoy it. But Zeke, for you, how are you liking the combat?
I really like. I'm actually playing it on Insanity, and it's pretty tough. It's not like it's not super impossible, and also it's nice that there's quite a few regular auto checkpoints that you get to. I've started over battles several times, and that's probably why I'm not as far in the game because I'm not, a good shooter. I probably am going to switch to keyboard and mouse, but third-person games I like controller. But the combat is really cool in that there's magic. Anytime I can throw a spell at somebody, I'm a happy guy. Yeah. And you throw these like biotics, like, push, like force push, or like you pound the ground and like I love that kind of shit. I'm having a total blast, like figuring out what my style is and that stuff. I try to shoot guns as little as possible if I can rely on, magic.
That was the one thing that did interest me about the game is like watching TB traverse this area. It's like super fast pace. It looks pretty fucking cool with these lightning strikes coming down. The combat looks fun. I just don't know if I could trog through like a giant like fucking text trees of just conversation over and over. But the combat, it does look like it's a lot of fun. And my understanding too is that you're not locked into choices that you make. You can go back and change them pretty easily. You don't need like a respec point or anything like that.
It's an interesting change because Mass Effect and a lot of BioWare games have had this problem where they ask you really early on, what is your class? I'm like, I don't know. What's the difference between Adept, a Sentinel, and a fucking Vanguard? I don't know if I'm going to like this play style. And then you get locked into something and it's like, oh, well, this wasn't my thing. This game's got a system that you get pretty early on called profiles, and they're unlocked when you invest a certain number of points into one of the three trees. There's like weapons, biotics, and tech or something. And you can switch in real time between those profiles. So you just hit a function key and it switches out. And that lets you play a different play style. That gives you a bunch of different buffs, and each profile has a special ability associated with it. And you can respec if you want. It is possible to do that.
Okay.
And you can also invest points right off the bat into pretty much almost any skill outside of the ultimate skills. If I want to go, and I did, charge, flamethrower, and fucking levitation, I can just do that straight away. I just throw a point in and away I go. And that was great for me because like I was almost spoiled for choice. In fact, I think I was, because it's like there's like 30, 40 different abilities I could go into right here. Which fucking one am I going to choose? I don't know. I guess I'll try this one and see how it works. And then if you like it, you can invest more points in it.
That's cool.
Because it gets progressively more expensive. And as you do that, it ranks your profile up that's associated with that. So it figures out what playstyle you like, and then it buffs that playstyle.
That's cool.
What do you get for, like, what type of buffs? Just like small little things or like drastic changes to the ability?
Some of them are drastic.
Okay.
It depends on how high you get them. Generally, the skill that you get at one point isn't all that great. And if you pick one of the passives, it's probably pretty shitty, like 2% or 3%. And then after a couple of points, it rapidly increased like 15%, 20%, procs, all that kind of thing.
That's cool.
Yeah. And I actually played around with that quite a bit during my, like, and that's another thing that ate up a lot of time was I would go to the planet, fight a little bit, and go, fuck. I don't know if I like that. Go back up to the ship, and like if you do it at the beginning, like beginning of the game, it's relatively cheap. It was like 20 credits or whatever they fucking call them, 20 units of money, and it erased all of my skill points, and I just reset them into like a different magic power. It's like, okay, let's try shockwave, let's try this and this, and I did that, and I finally landed on something I liked. But it was relatively cheap to do that, to test out like the ones that fit my playstyle best, which I really enjoyed that.
It's a pretty nominal fee then. You're not like drastically spending a shit ton of resources to change.
I'm guessing it goes way up, way later in the game, but if you're like
Probably.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
5th level, it's super cheap.
Yeah, if it's basically a system to make sure that you don't pick the wrong thing early on and get locked into it. A good way, by the way, to figure out what abilities you like is to play them multiplayer, because all of the classes have a different combination of those same abilities that you'd have in the single player. So,
really?
Yeah, it's actually how I decided to play Vanguard, because I picked the Vanguard first in the multiplayer. I'm like, oh, so this is the kind of playstyle I can expect. But there was one ability I didn't really like as the Vanguard. So I'm like, all right, I'm not going to get that in the single player. I'm going to get a fucking flamethrower out of my hand instead, because that's much more fun. So I just did that,
Sounds
a lot
good.
of flexibility there.
Is there a lot of scanning? I've turned into a lot of streams
there's a lot
of
of
this,
scanning.
and I just see people walking around with their fucking hand out just scanning. Is it an enjoyable scan process, or is it monotonous? Like, is it just fucking boring as shit just walking around?
Is there such thing as an enjoyable scan process?
I mean, I can if I thought about it, I could probably name a game or two where it was fun finding all the bullshit. But yeah, nothing's coming to mind right off the bat.
Metroid Prime was the first game that I played that was like, oh shit, this is gonna be all game, isn't it? Where I'm just like, beep, 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 beep,
Yeah.
beep, 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 beep.
Yeah.
I just wish there was like a more obvious tone, or the fucking the controller vibrator, fucking something would flash on the screen that say like, hey, you're by something to scan, rather than like wandering around like a fucking asshole making some shitty guess.
It's hard to. There's a thing down the bottom left of the screen if it's a mission critical that you're near, but it's not very obvious. Yeah, only mission critical. That's the thing. Like, I think I've scanned the same thing multiple times and still got points for it. The reason you do it is you get research points into 3 different areas that are basically related to your kind of tech, the Ket's tech, and the Remnant tech. And you use those points to research and develop new weapons or upgrades and mods and augments and shit. So you can avoid scanning a lot of that, but if you do that, you're not going to be able to develop stuff as quickly. I have a feeling I'm probably scanning too much and getting a little bit too completionist, but you do come across some stuff that's story relevant as well. So you can never necessarily tell the difference between what's just a fucking rock that just gives you points and what is a lore important rock that actually gives you story. So that's a pain in the ass that you just don't know the difference.
For completionists out there, does that actually count towards the percentage of the game? Do you know?
Probably.
Oh, God.
I don't know.
Okay. I can just imagine people streaming just, well, I got to go find this rock on this planet. I think it's somewhere over there. I'm missing 2 scans, and I think one of them's a rock.
I wish it was a
God.
pulse. I really do. Like for the puzzle elements of the game, the detective work, where it's like you gotta scan to follow the power lines to find out where this is and that. It's fine for that. But for finding shit on the ground, I just wish it was an area pulse that just picked up everything in an area. I know there's little bits of lore associated with everything you scan, but Jesus, the process can be a pain in the ass sometimes.
Chat's saying it does not, so that's good. That's good.
Thank God for
It
that.
doesn't count to 100, the percentage of the game completed at least. Here's, I guess, what you were just talking about in the skills being shown on screen right now, which looks pretty cool. All the skills. Is Annihilation, Singularity, and Barrier the big ones? Those are the ultimate skills?
I believe so. You need they're either level gated or you need a certain amount of points in that tree to get them.
Okay.
So
I remember, like,
anything that's grayed out.
Singularity was like the black hole thing, and Barrier was like a shield. I don't know what Annihilation was. That might be new. At least
I'm
from,
going to
from
assume
2.
that if it's called Annihilation, it's pretty good.
It's probably pretty good. Yeah, it's probably
If it's
pretty
not,
strong.
they've done something horribly wrong.
If it fizzles out, then yeah, it's misnamed. Well, it sounds like you guys are both enjoying it. I was expecting a 50-minute circle jerk hate, but it seems like you guys are both having a good time with it.
It just depends what your focus is, ultimately. I like driving around on planets in that awesome fucking rover, which in my opinion is a hell of a lot of fun to drive.
Oh, they
And you
made
can
it better.
upgrade it. Yeah. It's got a nice 6-wheel drive mode that lets you go up almost vertical cliff faces. You can upgrade that. It's got a rocket booster. You can do sick jumps with it. It's very hard to get it stuck on anything because it's so easy to get out of pretty much any area. It doesn't give a fuck. Mountains, don't give a fuck. Going up that shit. No problem.
No, that's the way it was in the first Mass Effect, right?
It was
With the-
pretty bad, and it drove. It was awful in the first. It just
Well, it drove
terrible.
like shit, but it could go fucking anywhere.
For the
if
most part,
had
you
it.
could do a
Yeah.
lot of dumb stuff with it. Yeah.
Yeah. It drove like a brick, but if you got the boosts right, Mako didn't give a fuck. It could go up the top of Everest. It wasn't breaking a sweat. This one just drives better. It's a lot of fun to have it skid through the sand and do power slides with it and shit. It's a nice vehicle. It doesn't have a gun on it, incidentally. They wanted to discourage you from using it as a kill-all method. And I think that makes sense because I know Mass Effect 1 had those
Yeah.
planets you could land on that were just basically empty spaces.
Yep.
In this case, they
boring.
have those open areas, but they don't want you to use your vehicle for everything. You can run people over with it, and it's pretty effective to run a few guys down, but they want you out of it and actually fighting.
Okay. Can you use it? Can you like set it up for cover if you're in the open? Is that an option?
I think so.
Oh,
I've
that's
never
cool.
done it, but I don't see why. I mean, the auto cover system works on pretty much anything, so I assume it probably works on that too.
That's good.
Is there any? I haven't actually gotten into the Mako yet, or whatever they're calling it. What are they calling it now?
The Nomad.
The Nomad. There you go. Mako is so much better name. It's a shark. Anyway, is there a way to change the view, like like back it up or?
FOV.
I'm not sure. I haven't tried it.
Okay.
There is a field of view slider, so I've never found it to be a problem.
Okay.
Nice.
Just curious.
Well, to ask a grandiose question about everything, you guys seem like pretty big Mass Effect fans. At least you've played the other 3 and enjoyed them. Does this seem like a worthy next step for the series? I think that's what a lot of people maybe have been super critical about and maybe upset about, is that it just seems kind of like an expansion rather than a new game. I think is a word that
I almost think they were doomed from the outset because I don't think people have memories of playing along with guys like Garrus and Rex for like 100 fucking hours. Like they went through a saga with them. They went through a saga with Shepard as well. So throwing all that out the window and starting again with new people was always going to be problematic. It was always going to be a real challenge. Does that mean that they've done a good job with some of these characters? Well, no. I mean, there's maybe 2 companions that I've found interesting so far. Maybe a third, although she seems more annoying than interesting.
I fell in love with the Turian, by the way. I love her.
Turian's my wife already.
PB
She's hanging with me. No, that's the Asari. That's the annoying Asari.
Okay. All right.
There's a female Turian who I guess is, your kind of female Garrus, I suppose, of some description. And
she's like a Han Solo-ish, like roguish kind of a person.
That's right. Yeah, she's pretty great. And I just got a Krogan. I haven't had him along with me yet, but every cutscene I saw the Krogan in was fucking awesome. So I don't know if he's going to measure up to Rex, but he seems like he's going to be a lot of fun to play around with.
One of the biggest things that
speaking of,
one of One of the biggest things that ticked me off in the second one was that I had to fucking play with Grunt and I couldn't use Rex.
Yeah, no Rex. Yeah,
And then you go to that the goddamn planet where Rex is like the king, and you're just like, come on, dude, just fucking
Like,
leave.
Rex, come on.
Just fucking take Grunt. This guy's an idiot. Even the shepherd was just bad from Grunt. It was just awful. Anyways, continue on. What were we gonna say, Zeke?
Well, no. Speaking of Krogans, I was a little taken aback at there's a female Krogan on the station. She is female, right?
Yeah, she is. Yeah.
There's a female Krogan on the not the Citadel, the Nexus, and her voice is does not match. What do you think?
What I would have
It's not
expected.
Krogan?
I was like, oh, it's a Krogan. Oh, it looks like a Krogan female. And then the voice that comes out, it's not like like a Krogan. You would like a deep. Yeah.
What does it sound
really
like?
Strange. I don't know. It's hard to describe. It just doesn't match the appearance. I guess you've had this expectation in your mind for God knows how many games as to what a female Krogan's really going to sound like.
Yeah.
And then you hear them speaking like, oh, right, that's not what I envisioned for the last 10 years.
Huh. Zeke, what about you? Does it live up to? We got TB's thoughts on it, but for you, does it live up to what you expected from a Mass Effect game? A new Mass Effect game, that is. Really?
Absolutely. I'm not that far into it, but it's absolutely what I wanted out of a Mass Effect game. It has everything that you love about Mass Effect, but it also, I think it's a great thing that they didn't try yet, at least, to connect this one to the old one very much. There's certain things you pick up, like there's research files that you see from Liara talking about the Protheans, back in the day.
Yep.
And you're like, oh, that's cool. That's a little nod. But everything else is brand fucking new, and it's a great restart another telling from the same universe. It's not. I don't feel like I'm continuing. I feel like I'm starting over, which I think is in line with the actual story of the game. You're trying to start over on these golden planets that can support life. I'm really enjoying it. I honestly, right now, it's at least an 8, if not 9 for me.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's again going to depend on what you want. Someone in chat just pointed out that Eurogamer called it BioWare's worst RPG. They might be right in terms of RPG. It's certainly by no means their worst game. You're out of your fucking mind if you think Dragon Age 2 was somehow better than this. I don't think Dragon Age Inquisition is better than this either. I thought that game also had a ton of problems. Also, by the way, they made a Sonic RPG that sucked ass as well, so you can shove that one in there too. But as an RPG, yeah. But here's the thing. I actually don't believe Mass Effect has been an RPG since Mass Effect 1. I really don't.
An action game?
It mostly is.
Yeah.
I think it's a third-person shooter with light RPG elements. There's not enough RPG in there. Hell, I think there's more RPG in terms of character customization and stat manipulation in Andromeda than there was in 2.
Well, what do you consider what would make it an RPG?
There's the difficult question, isn't it? Because over the last few years, we've seen that stuff that was traditionally only done in RPGs has started to seep into other genres. Look at Far Cry 3 and 4 in particular. There's a ton of shit in those games that used to only be in RPGs. That game has an experience system, it's got a skill system, it's got a gathering system, a crafting system, it even has fucking dialogue trees. But do we call Far Cry an RPG? We don't. So I guess the question at that point comes in, well, what's an RPG now then? Unless we're looking at something like Pillars of Eternity or Torment, which are the very classic CRPG. What is an RPG by modern 2017 definition? I actually couldn't answer that.
Well, I think I think we just have to expand the term to include games like Far Cry and stuff. I think that
really, you
in
think
and
we
of
have to
itself
include
is an
Far Cry?
RPG.
I think there's
Far
an
Cry.
umbrella that all of that could sit under, but there's so many splinters now. There's so many blurred lines between games because everyone bothers. Everyone takes from other games and puts into them and makes those systems work in whatever game they're trying to create, for sure. The whole idea of genre in video games is kind of out the window for the most
The
part
same as
now.
genre and music. It's the exact same. You're gonna have the same problems. Eventually,
Yeah.
everything bleeds together.
There's large umbrellas, right? But
You want to know how blurred the lines of genres are? Ask the person in the band, so what genre of music do you play? Well, we don't like to define ourselves we're kind of like this, but not really, it's like, it's kind of grunge, but a little screamo and maybe a little touch of.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure if you ask the marketing
I get
people
really
these,
picky
but-
about metal subgenres, and we have the same problem there as well, because you start to think, right, well, does it fit into this subgenre? Maybe not, but it's close enough. Maybe we need a subgenre now to really define what this is all about. And it starts to get a nightmare to describe it. I think the best way to describe a lot of games these days is less by genre and more by comparison to other games.
Yeah, exactly.
And also by what are the major mechanics that drive this game? What's the core gameplay loop and what does it involve?
Yep.
Because those are the sort of things that people are going to be able to judge whether or not a game's worthwhile for them by, not whether or not you say it's an RPG. I mean, fuck, if someone comes to you and said, we have a roguelike for you to look at, tell me what the fuck game that is. You can't, can you? It doesn't mean shit anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think games should be defined on the main thing that makes them fun.
Yeah.
Like,
More
what
often than not is the core gameplay loop. What are you doing on a regular that is the main mechanic that's driving the progress through the game? In the case of Mass Effect, there's two things. There's what Zeke mentioned, which is talking to people, dialogue, conversations, and relationships. And then there's the other half of it, which is third-person, cover-based combat with abilities and squad mates. And everything else, it's kind of fluff, really. All that other stuff, skill points, experience, levels up, equipment, loot, rarity levels, they're in all sorts of other games now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about that, by the way. How does this game handle loot? Like, is there equipment and is there rarity and is there different, all of
There
that
is.
stuff? It's all there?
Yep.
Okay.
Heavily crafting based. There are drops. There are also levels of drops. They've gone far more. They've leaned right back towards loot. Yeah, I mean, you probably noticed in 2 and also in 3 that loot wasn't really a big deal in those games.
Yeah,
Like
I
in
never
Mass Effect
touched 3,
1,
but 2 was not at all.
Yeah.
And 1 was. 1 had a lot of loot.
Yeah,
Although it was
1 had a lot of
predetermined.
it. Yep, I remember having 12 suits of the exact same fucking pink armor with 1% difference in terms of how much they protected. That was obnoxious. They've gone a bit further back towards that, and it's very modular. You've got pieces of armor that you can equip. You've got helmets, chest pieces, legs, and arms. There's different variants of those. There's 5 different levels of each of them. So they're both level gated and in terms of they take more resources to craft. You can also buy some of them just straight from a vendor. You can augment certain things in the crafting process, so you can change the nature of the weapon. I just crafted a level 2 Disciple, which is an energy shotgun, and I put an augment in it, which changes it basically into a grenade launcher, which is pretty cool.
That's cool.
But then after that, you also have mods. So things like longer barrel, melee optimizer, which is basically a bayonet, stabilizer, compensator, suppressor, that sort of thing. And you can throw all those in there too. So
Now,
yeah, it's very, very stat tweaky, I guess.
Huh.
have you played the game enough to know the answer to this question? Do I need to worry about augmenting my stuff, or can I just find drops and be okay? Because I'm guessing that I'm going to be able to just find drops or buy the weapons without, having to search for the pieces of them and I'll be fine.
So this bit's weird as fuck, and it is explained about 6 fucking menus down in a little text tutorial. Supposedly, according to the text, you can't get an augment to drop until you have researched it first. When you research the augment, you get 1 copy of it, basically a prototype, and then that augment can drop randomly in future. So that's kind of how it works. So you do, to some extent, have to invest in the research and development aspect of the game, as far as I can tell.
So in order for better weapons of the same style to drop, you have to research them.
No.
Oh.
The system is terribly confused, and it's got tons of layers. Only augments. Augments are the things that you put into weapons while you're crafting them to vastly change the way they work.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
You've got to develop those before they start dropping.
Now, but can you? I'm just wondering if you can make your way through the game with an augmentless weapon arsenal.
Yes, totally. I found a level 2 Carnifex pistol at a regular vendor. I didn't have to research it or whatever the fuck. And you can certainly find those as drops as well. Pieces of equipment will drop.
I'm not a fucking
crafting
attachment guy. I don't give a shit
I don't
about
blame you.
yeah.
I like it when the changes that you make to the crafting actually have real consequences instead of like, oh, you get 2% extra this and 3% extra that. That's boring as fuck. But the augments tend to vastly change the nature of the weapon and the armor. They're like big, significant changes. I just slapped one into an armor piece that's like, oh, you're at full health, you do 20% extra damage. I'm like, that's pretty fucking significant. And that wasn't even a top level one either. So I'm enjoying this a little bit more because it's less 1%, 2% here, and more what I'm doing is significantly changing the performance of this thing.
Scanning's back. I'm realizing now that you're scanning some asteroids for some fucking.
Oh my god, that sucks.
This does not look.
It's
What?
not. You know what's the worst thing about all of it? Not only is the scanning utterly uninteresting, but you have an unskippable 23-second traversal cutscene between each fucking area.
What? I thought Destiny was the only game to do that. Why would they?
Hey, it
Because-
wasn't a cutscene. It was a menu.
What?
They
Are they hiding load times for
No, they
consoles?
can't
And they
be.
like what?
Here's the thing, they can't be, because most of these planets you can't land on. You just scan them, get a little bit of lore, and you leave. If it was a case of landing on a planet, sure, you could be hiding asset loading there. But in most of these cases, it is literally nothing but a rock and 6 lines of text. It ain't hiding shit. I think people were actually making the argument of my immersion. It's like, oh, you're totally flying. No, that gets real boring after a couple of times. I'll tell you that for a fact.
Yeah, I'm watching you fight.
Remember the first time on a fucking airplane, you're like, oh, we're taking off. Oh, we're landing. And now it's just like, I gotta fucking fly again.
Yep, they should totally make that skippable. It's bullshit. Like, the people complained about the length of the tram transitions in the Nexus. Well, that's actually skippable. That is hiding a loading screen, but as long as you got a fast SSD, you can skip that in about 2 seconds. That's how long it usually takes me to. Yeah, you just hammer the spacebar, and after about 2 seconds, it lets you through. But with this, you can't skip shit. It's a giant pain in the dick. It's actively discouraged me from going to systems where I know that it's just for completion's sake, that I know there's nowhere I can land. I'm just like, fuck that. I don't want 17 iron from that asteroid. I'll get it some other way. Fuck that. It's a waste of my time.
And there are ways to earn the iron, and the iron is for upgrading, correct?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
There's a ton of fucking materials. Too many, in my opinion. It's actually hard to keep track of what you fucking got, because the UI in this game is shit. It really is a pain to navigate. And it's like, well, there's about 20 or 30 different crafting materials. Like, I don't even remember what these are. I want to make this helmet. I need this thing. It's like, do I have that? I don't know. Let's go to the vendor and try and buy it. Oh, I forgot what the name of it was, because there's so many different fucking crafting materials. Like, they could have done way better with those menus and how they actually give you the information as a player.
And another thing that I'm going to just have to accept and just really learn to enjoy is those fucking exclamation marks that say, you haven't read this yet.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to go fucking hunting for them. Like, what haven't I read? What haven't I read?
What did I miss?
They put like notifications for things you haven't done yet on a world that are like that blatant.
No. In your menu, like your codex, look at all 6
Yep,
right there.
Yep.
Journal,
Why
codex, inventory.
Why do games insist on having that mechanic and not a clear all? Like Overwatch fucking has it, where if I'm trying to, if I haven't played in like 7 months or whatever, I get on and every hero has like new next to it, and I'm like, I'm not gonna go through 7 lines of voice for every hero to get that.
Yep.
Can I just click clear? Like, I don't want to go through.
Horizon had the same issue with it. When you
couldn't
with
be
everything.
more right.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't remember the codex being good in any of the BioWare games, but I think this might be the worst yet, because there's just so many menus to dive down, and there's no fucking search function. I think the way I'm going to read it is they've released an app again. They did it for Mass Effect 3 as well, if I recall, and for Dragon Age, where you can send your strike teams off to go do little missions while you're not playing, and it also has the codex in it. I think I'll just read it there, rather than trying to read it in the game, because it's a giant waste of time. I'm interested in that lore. I just don't want to read it on your stupid-ass menu that scrolls slower than a fucking sloth on goddamn skis. It's terrible. I don't know what is happening there. I don't know why it takes so long to scroll down. I'm going to burn out my mouse wheel at this rate. Oh, God.
What Earthworm Jim over here? Look at this guy.
Oh, God.
It's Callow. Is that a?
Yeah.
Is that like a? What does he do?
He's a Solarian. He's your pilot.
Yeah.
Oh, he's your pilot. Okay,
Yeah.
he's the.
Yeah, that's another
They all look like
He's
that.
is he a joke? Is he as good as Joker?
I'd say no. I'd say the Joker character in this is actually an engineer. It's a British guy who pulls some real Montgomery Scott shit on you, which I really enjoyed.
Are you female?
Yes.
Your main? You are? Okay. Did you try and love on him?
No, I went straight for the Turian because I have class.
Oh no, I'm a whore when I'm in these games. No matter what, I'll bang anything that's in my path. And the first thing, and I'm spoiler alert, it's within the first 2 hours of the game. But first thing I did is oh, there's a heart icon. That means I can flirt with him. And he goes, "You're not my style. I like him." And I'm like, okay, sorry, my bad.
I actually kind of like that not everybody in the game is bisexual and polygamous. It's like, okay, I tried to romance the Korra, I think is her name, human female, shot me down immediately. It's like, I'm not into girls. Like, all right.
Yep.
I think it's better that way, it gives them, because that, sexuality is part of the personality. You can't just say one size fits all for everybody.
Sure.
So I'm kind of glad that you're locked out of some options.
That makes sense.
Yeah, no, I was honestly happy to be turned down because I had read so much fucking dialogue by then. They were like, "Hey, flirt," and they were like, "Nope, I'm gay." And like, "Thank you very much. Goodbye."
It's like we know where we stand now. We can just be really good friends and comrades now. We're not going to get into anything awkward.
Perfect.
Yeah, no more quests, no more fucking lines of itemized dialogue or anything like that. It was just bye. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yep. They also make it abundantly clear if you're romancing them or not. I remember some of previous BioWare games. I accidentally started flirting with someone without realizing. Like, no, I'm faithful. I'm faithful. I'm monogamous. God damn it, no.
Oh God.
I was always afraid they'd find out at some point. It's like, have you been flirting with this guy? I know you have because the game told me. Like, you son of a bitch, you snitch.
Got to be careful, TB. Well, I'm.
You play it, TB?
Look, the same thing. I've discovered something about myself recently, Zeke, as I've been playing a lot of Dota.
Mm-hmm.
And I was playing a lot of Horizon, and I really enjoyed Zelda. I enjoyed Zelda more than Horizon. And here's why. Zelda had very few moments where I had to sit through a ton of dialogue. It was just nonstop gameplay. Horizon had a ton of dialogue, but the story was good, so I was interested. And it was always like, there was never like fluff, if that's a way to talk about it. It was like, this is very important to the main story. You need to be listening to everything that I'm saying. If you don't, you're going to be lost because that game goes places and has a ton of like lore in it as you're learning about the past and things like that. It was still interesting. This game seems to just have a lot of like bullshit when people talk. And that's the type of stuff where I would just be so fucking bored out of my mind.
I'm
just
with you, man.
droning on, listening to them talk about how their grandmother used to live on some planet, and maybe that's a quest, but maybe it's not. Like that type of stuff, I'm just not into.
Well, the same reason why I like this game for its dialogue and all that shit is the same reason I like the Souls games for their lack of dialogue and their esoteric, like, figure it out, maybe make a theory of your own kind of a thing.
Yeah. But at the same time, like watching the little snippets of combat that I've seen, like it looks really fun to just fucking jump around and fly around in this world and fight. It looks great.
Yeah, you can just wheel through everything, just pick, select, and just collect all the missions.
And that's why. And I think this is why I don't. MMOs have ruined me because that's what I do in it. That's what you do in MMOs. You go up to someone and they're like, "Hey, let me tell you a story," and you're like, "No, just give me the quest." Click, done, go do fucking whatever you got to do. These type of games, I can't do that anymore. Like the 10 minutes of sitting there reading, unless it's really riveting things being said, I just don't fucking care about how your mom used to make you some soup and it made you feel really good about life. I just don't care.
I introduce you to my weed dealer, man. You'll like it a little bit more. Sure.
See, yeah, exactly. I'm sure there's ways to make it enjoyable. And if I'm in the mood, like
dealers in Montana because it's not legal.
Yeah. If I'm in the right mood, I can definitely sit through that stuff. But after about like 4 or 5 hours of something, I get really antsy, and I just like, it's like I need to go kill. I need to do something competitive and prove that I'm like decent at what this game. I can't just sit in a dialogue tree for that long. It just fucking pains me.
I want to be shown stuff, not told it.
Yeah.
I want to have them I want to be a participating member. I don't want to have to sit there and like read it out, especially on stream. That's a lot of reading out loud. Like I don't want to sit there and have to read out loud like a book's worth of shit. So I'm the same way. It's just not for me.
Yeah.
Not only that, but dialogue-heavy games on stream, are you sitting there not streaming, basically? You're just a passive participant in it.
Yeah.
It's like, how much of this is me doing work, and how much of this is the game doing my job for me?
Right. And so that's why I just play Dota 2 all day, because it's more fun for me. I also have emotional responses in Dota, and in these games, I very rarely have an emotional response of any form.
Do you not have a dialogue wheel with that Russian guy?
Yeah.
The Russian guy's like, sick your lat! And you're like, sarcastic response, loving, compassionate response, serious, stern response.
And I did this with Overwatch. I do this with pretty much any competitive game. It's one of my favorite things about streaming competitive games is I can have a dialogue with my team. They just won't be able to hear it or know that I'm even like talking to them or respond back to me with the things that I'm saying.
Yep.
I watch out though. People get mad at you for that. It's
Oh,
like,
no.
Fucking flaming your teammates. It's like, they can't hear me.
Yeah, exactly. I get a lot of that. We also had a guy like 2 days ago, which blew my mind. The guy randomly, we're like 20 minutes in this game, and he goes, hey, Crystal Maiden, are you streaming? My friend says he's watching your stream right now, and you're streaming. And it's just like, God damn it, now I just can't talk to this. Now I can't say anything bad about this guy.
Bro,
or he's going to lose his shit.
Playing like Counter-Strike, where you have to have team communication, and like somebody, and it's like my game, so I'll get in almost every game. Somebody will be like, hey man, how's stream going? And then they'll try and tell a joke.
Yeah. That shit triggers me, man. It makes the entire game different.
Yeah.
The second that someone knows your
behavior, and not in a good way usually.
Yeah.
They're usually just looking for attention or to sabotage it in some way. Yeah, you got to be really careful with that. I don't play competitive team-based games on stream anymore as a result of that.
Makes sense.
It became too much of a nightmare. Even when I was using pseudonyms, thank fuck with like Steam and Origin, you can change your username whenever you want, but
doesn't fucking help me.
Doesn't know. It's people figure it out really quick. It only takes one person to be watching the stream, and then suddenly everyone now knows that it's you, and it's like, oh well.
That happened a ton with Overwatch, and I made the mistake of using itmeJP as my name in Overwatch. So the second I would join a game, countless times, the one person on my team would just, in a ranked game, would just be like, "Oh well, you're gonna lose this game now," and it's like, well, that sucks. Like I fucked up.
I used Total Biscuit in Overwatch. That was a huge mistake. I don't know why I thought that was a good idea.
Yeah, exactly. Or my favorite too is when people are like, "Is that the real?" No, that's a fake. That's a fake. It's like,
and then they start insulting you for being a fake.
Yeah, who would actually want to be fake me? Like what?
I have pretended to be my own soundboard in Counter-Strike games because I've made like a call out and somebody is like, "Yo, you sound a lot like that streamer Jericho, man." And then I'll just be quiet, and somebody will go, probably just like one of those soundboards, and then I'll say like, "Thank you for the sub," like 2 or 3 times in a row, and they'll drop it immediately, and I'm like, "Thank God." It's just like
that's ridiculous.
I used to fuck with people in Savage 2 because I did the tutorial for that game, and it's a context-sensitive tutorial that when you look at certain things, it does a little line read. So I used to do fake line reads in the VoIP to fuck with people.
Nice.
It would start off sounding like a tutorial line read, and then I'd change it to something like, "and you're the worst player in this game," or some shit. And they'd be like, "What the fuck is happening?" That was very enjoyable.
Oh, God. That sounds fun. Well, I think it's good discussion. I do want to revisit Mass Effect. Zeke, you're going to keep playing it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. When you get towards the end of it, I want to hear your overall thoughts. Because I feel like with these games, you can't give a accurate thought on the game until you've played it all. Like until you've
got to play a lot.
You've experienced everything.
I'll just let you guys know now that you can take my opinion once I finish the game or get to the end game or whatever. You can take my opinion or leave it due to the fact that I enjoyed Mass Effect 3 a lot. So if you disagree with that, then you might disagree with everything. You might find everything I say from here on out suspect.
I see what you're saying.
I'm just letting you know right now.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Jericho, we got about 5 minutes. And I think that's enough time to talk about the H1Z1 update.
That's
what did
plenty.
they actually update in H1Z1?
Right, so it's so funny. Since Battlegrounds, since we talked to PlayerUnknown and we commented several times over the last couple weeks on how good they are at just doing PR and just announcing things in a timely manner and overviews, H1 made a video that I'm sure you'll be able to find and pull up that actually has an overview of all of the changes. They added different colored hit markers for people wearing armor, cars, and just general flesh. They added a new HUD for being in a vehicle, and they added spectate mode. All three of these things are 2 years old, necessarily. Like the spectate they've had for a year and a half now. And I mean, it's nice to have it. It is, but it's clearly in response because Battlegrounds had all this at launch. And as for the HUD's hideous looking, in my opinion. And the hit markers, I think we're getting into the realm of giving too much information, especially for a competitive game. Like, the information is very valuable, especially when you're talking about, a game that we're having a $300,000 tournament for. And I feel like we're really starting to cater towards Joe Schmo over here, which is fine.
This video?
Yeah, this is the video.
Okay. Well, we're not going to be able to discern. Okay, here we go.
All right, here we go. So this is spectate, like it's fine, it works. But I mean, when they start showing the hit markers, it's just like you got to walk a fine line between giving a player all the information in the world and giving them enough to make a decision, but still leaving some things up in the air. So like with Counter-Strike, you can shoot somebody and be like, I hit this guy a couple times. I don't know how much health, but he's lit, right? It adds a little bit of dynamic to the game. So I feel like we're giving too many little things to people now. We already have hit markers. Like, I don't need to know that I destroyed a guy's helmet from across the map,
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I mean, good for them. I'm glad they updated it. Here's some of the changes here. But it's just like, why couldn't you have done this 3 months ago? Did it really just so happen to be complete the day before Battlegrounds came out? Like, did you really just finish it in time?
So is this live now?
As far as I know, yes. As far as I know, it is live.
It is live. Okay. Huh. Yeah. I've never been to the H1Z1 homepage, but I find it so interesting that they have an entire little widget for Dr. Disrespect streams. Only is it only his stream, or like what goes in here?
Is he streaming right now? Because I'm pretty sure that's the top. If he's not streaming right now, then that's weird.
It says he is live with.
Okay.
I don't know if he actually is.
He's the number one stream right now. He is live, so that's what it is. It's just like the biggest stream, but it's like what on your homepage you have a guy who's probably screaming about how bad your game is.
Yeah, I mean that's his shtick with H1Z1 now, is he just talks about how bad the game is. Like
he actually deleted it yesterday, I think. So I guess he installed it again?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Look, I did that with Overwatch and delete it, and Blizzard doesn't like it. They don't really talk to me anymore. So
what, when you rage deleted the
yeah,
game
when I rage
stuff?
deleted Overwatch on stream, they didn't like that at all. So I find it very funny that like H1Z1's like, well, I mean, he gets pretty good viewership and plays our game, so I guess we'll feature.
It's funny because the indie side of that is completely the opposite. Like you like rant about it, and I was like, I'm fucking deleting this game. And a lot of times the indie guys are like DMing me like, hey, why did you delete the game? Because we would like to know, and if you could, reinstall it, be good. We'll work on the things and that kind of shit.
Yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
But so I guess that stuff's live. Battlegrounds launches tomorrow, though, or tonight.
I'm ready.
Dun, dun, dun.
Tomorrow.
I don't know when the servers go live. You know what? Not to harp on this game because we talked about it so much. The thing that I'm interested in is now that the servers are permanently live and not just live on the weekends, how does that affect the viewership numbers on Twitch and the gameplay? Because everybody was like, I only streamed Battlegrounds on the weekends because that's the only time I could.
Yeah, so. Summit, Lyric, Dr. Disrespect, Sacriel, I think they were kind of the top four, the big four.
Yep.
And I think Sacriel did like 2 20-hour streams or 3 20-hour streams back to back.
So gross.
With that,
so
just
gross.
playing nonstop. So it seems like they're definitely in it and enjoying the fuck out of it. Most people are playing duos from what I've seen.
Yeah,
Not that many
it's
people are
definitely a
playing
duo
single.
game.
Yeah. And it's fun to watch. Like I had a lot of fun watching it. But at the same time, H1Z1 was a fucking blast to play when it first came out, and it's kind of the same cycle that TB was talking about, that I was talking about 2 weeks ago. Like that's just those games. So we'll see if it sticks around. I think the key is what we were saying last week. If they continue to update it and they continue to keep it fresh and add new things and actually implement things that are somewhat game changing, then it'll have some longevity to it.
Nobody should ever get mad about competition. It's only going to make the games better. So we'll see what happens.
That's the other thing.
You should
too.
hope so, anyway.
I want to see what happens.
Sure that's actually happened to those fucking survival crafting games.
Yeah. I want to see what happens to the actual community too, because as they do hop from game to game, this is kind of the first one where there has been such a divide where like H1Z1's still making updates and still a game, and here's this new one. So like, who's going to stay? Who's going to jump ship? Is that going to be the nonstop chat? Is like, well, H1Z1 is better than Battlegrounds because is that going to be the norm now, where those two games just battle head to head nonstop?
I think they will. I think you're going to have your diehard fans of H1, and you're going to have your diehard fans of Battlegrounds. You know, the passionate anti-H1 crowd.
I'm sure they're going to be very reasonable in their discussions.
Oh, totally.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100% reasonable human beings.
Oh yeah.
I think the other big thing there too is whoever has the first like streamer tournament and keeps those going, that'll do like huge for that game.
Yeah, especially when they're allowing everybody to run their own server and shit like that, and modding as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll run my own streaming tournament, whatever the hell, and commentate. It's going to be pretty easy with everything built in. So.
Yep, totally. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back and talk about a brand new front page from Twitch. Have you guys seen this yet?
I have.
Okay. Well, I'm excited to share it with you because it is a pretty drastic change, kind of. Like visually, it's a big drastic change, but it still has a lot of the same stuff that you've come to expect from the front page of Twitch. That I think went into like beta testing yesterday. It's also new channel viewers. So we'll talk about that and probably some more games when we come back for the second half here of Drop Frames Not Gonna Wear. We'll be right back with more. See you guys then.